Anybody have anything else? Oh, never mind. So I would like to officially welcome you all here today. I'm super excited because we have some private schools and we have some new partners that we have not seen before. And when I work on our training, I try to listen to what you all say and we survey quite a bit, but we want things that are functional to the different populations that we work with. And one of the things, Dr. Rose, I said before you came is I wanted to disclose my bias and potential conflict of interest. Not that I'm getting paid anything, but Dr. Rose and I have worked together. We do research together, and she is who I go to. Even I have a mild background. I'm public health. I'm so old that my master's program was designed to be like an EAP director when that field first started. I'm also, my mom has had until last year, she has had a prescription for pain pills since 1967. And my little brother died from alcoholism. So addiction, and I actually was trained to be an addiction person. And then I realized that I would probably be better working with families. I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who don't help themselves. So I chose a different area of health, but I am very committed to addiction and community issues and drunk driving and prevention. And I'm not the person to do treatment with people, but I try to stay up on all the risk factors. Safety is one of my areas. And so I love that Stephanie keeps me informed of the new drugs that are coming out because um, like I'm from the post-Vietnam era, and so the GI Bill was still relatively big by the time that I reached college. So there were a lot of drugs everywhere, totally different drugs than they are today. And
Yeah.
then again, as a health teacher, I don't like to take the drugs that I'm prescribed, let alone something that someone invented in their garage. And so we've had a lot of
In the jungle.
discussion.
It's where
Um,
a lot of fentanyl is actually, and our meth that we're getting is made in jungles, kind of next to each other.
it's
And I promise you, they're not measuring it. I've gotten to see a lot of undercover videos and things, and I'm just like, oh, they're just
just with
dumping
the
stuff in, and
safety
the
component
chemicals.
alone, it's crazy. So anyway, that's when Stephanie and I were talking about what else we could do to help the addiction area. I asked her for her advice, and she thought this would be a really great one for the population that I work with. So I have great respect for her credentials, her professionalism, and her expertise. So Dr. Rose, take it away.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. And I will also share that I also have a lot of loss around addiction. It's part of what interested me to get into this field. I lost my dad when he was 50 years old to alcoholism. And then a cousin, I've lost several people, but people very close to me, my cousin who was 22 died of a fentanyl overdose. And the way it happened was he was smoking marijuana from a bong with so called friends. They were supposed to be all of our friends. Um, it was laced with fentanyl, and the part of the bowl that he smoked had that amount of fentanyl in it. He overdosed, and no one called until it was way too late. The first responders got there and said, "There's nothing at this point that we can do." And so, I will admit that in my early 20s, I started coping with things. I was raised, you suck it up, Buttercup. You don't take mental health meds. But drinking was okay. If you're stressed, that was normalized in my family. And so I'll admit I kind of got pulled into that a little bit and had to take a step back and what I'm repeating things that I had no intention of ever repeating. And so I have a lot of passion and empathy for people who are struggling with addiction. I also have a lot of passion and empathy for loved ones who have loved ones struggling with addiction because it is not easy. Um, so, one of the things Dr. Segal and I talked about, I kind of looked at Illinois' laws and kind of the way your Narcan or naloxone is set up. And so we just wanted to do a practical guide on this. Um, And as Dr. Sego said, I'm Dr. Stephanie Rose. I'm an associate professor and program director for our addiction studies treatment program, as well as our Master of Science Pathway to Prevention program, which is a newer program. But we are learning. You are not doing a whole lot if you aren't working in prevention as well, and helping people to not go into relapses and maintain their recovery is prevention. We also assist family members because a lot of family members start to cope with substances themselves, whether it be prescribed or they're partaking as well. So, just kind of a little bit about us. And I'm just going to kind of dive into this. So, the first thing I wanted to do, because I know that this work was not easy, we're still battling so much stigma around this and so much misunderstanding, misinformation out there. I am proud of my state and a little disappointed at the same time. We had the biggest dip in overdoses, mostly due to our Narcan initiatives, which is wonderful. That's a lot of lives saved. However, we are the number one opioid prescribing state now. We were number two, we moved up to number one. They contribute that to a lot of our providers needing more education, as well as a lot of blue collar injuries. Arkansas is a big farming and blue collar job type state. So, but I wanted to just read this because this encapsulates everything I was trying to do when I started here at UCA in 2017. And I'm a big data nerd. I think we all should be if we're specialists in our field. And I'm looking at what is going on the West Coast, and I'm looking at the East Coast, and I'm like, that is just a matter of time before it hits the middle America hard. And so I just started advocating, and especially with my cousin's experience, I knew it was already here and it was going to get worse. So I just want to say naloxone on college campuses, a call to action. I just kind of wrote this up. Never stop advocating. Your voice matters. The right person will eventually hear you. Do not shy away from asking hard questions or having courageous conversations. Keep educating others about the stigma surrounding naloxone and why compassion saves lives. Partner with fellow change makers who share your passion and empower one another to make a difference. Know the laws that support your mission and use them as tools for change. Together, we can create safer, more informed campuses, one conversation at a time. And that is really how it's happened. Our opioid settlement directors will call me up, Dr. Rose, I need you to call or get a hold of someone at this college and find a champion for them to have a naloxone program. And really have a naloxone program, not just have one person on campus who has it locked in their office. That's not helpful, especially when seconds, minutes matter. Can I ask anyone in here have experience with naloxone or overdose that you'd be comfortable to share? Yes, please. Yeah, I want this to be,
Sure.
yeah,
Uh,
you just share when you have a question or want to.
so I want to say years ago now. So I live in the Chicago area, and I'm a big music. My husband and I and my son, we go to Lollapalooza and Riot Fest
Oh,
every
I love
year.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, our family's a lot like that too. Music is wonderful. Yeah.
And yeah, I want to say it was pre-COVID was the first time they had a campaign at Lala where they were just giving out Narcan, showing folks how to use it. And because we don't go way up front, we did the training, but we didn't take it with us, but we knew what to look for and we knew how to administer and really destigmatize it and try to, if we saw folks that maybe might need it in the future, kind of guided them over to the tent. So to your fact of like the right person will hear you, we weren't necessarily the targeted audience, but we were the advocates to help get the word out and spread it out more.
And that right there is beautiful because it's going to take community. We were, we didn't just do this on our campus, but I kept getting grants for the community as well. And so our warming and cooling shelters now have insulated one boxes that has a screen and works through our libraries in our division, and then our shelters. We wanted to make sure that they were all covered too. That is a perfect example, though, of someone helping to decrease the stigma, and you empowered yourself and then you empowered other people. So thank you for that. Yes, there have been times, well, it's actually happened once, where I was the only person who had naloxone at the bowling alley. And, if you guys were to guess the most difficult population to talk about this stuff with, who would you guess? What age demographic?
Gen X.
Actually, it's people who are older and have a prescription. When I talk to them about Narcan, they don't want to hear it. I don't have that problem. I have a prescription. And I'm like, oh, but that, anything could happen. You could mix something on accident or take a dose. It happens all the time. People accidentally take 2 doses. So, it's not just our youth. It's all of us. This is one epidemic that is impacting everybody. So I just want to say, and thank you, Dr. Wester, for being willing to speak up and share that. I appreciate that.
Hey, Steph, I want to share a super quick, super short story. Again, I talked about my mom. My mom was hit by a drunk driver in 1967. And, she's been a prescription drug addict most of my life. And so towards the end of my dad's life, he was in the hospital for blood pressure. And he was always very worried about her. My mom's a 50s housewife that the world passed by. And I said, Dad, I go, you know that mom's a drug addict. And he looked at me so seriously and he goes, Auntie Lynn, someone should have done something. And
Yeah.
I go, Dad, that would have been you. And again, super serious, looked at me. And my dad was a very smart man, the smartest man that I've met. He goes, but the doctors prescribed it.
Yes.
And I go, I know. But I mean, I just, again, having experienced it from different, I've never forgotten that. I mean, dead serious, because they're from the generation that if the doctor prescribed it, you take
Yes.
it. And they also don't think about that interaction and the self-advocacy because they're not from that era. So I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. And um, I don't ever want to be sarcastic with people because, that's obvious. They're not going to hear me, right? And so I just try to remind them the pharmaceutical companies are the ones who got us in this mess because they told us it wasn't addictive or dependent or habit forming. And that's why that Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family have huge lawsuits against them. And so I think that's always important, and the same thing Purdue did with Xanax. Xanax isn't addictive, it's fine. And we had all these people overdosing. So, I think it's important that we not forget those historical markers in our health history for sure. So this is just a quick review of what we're talking about today. So the main thing we know, opioids, they depress that central nervous system, our breathing, our, everything that our non-autonomic body functions. And so you have your prescriptions, morphine, codeine, methadone, oxycodone, and there is prescription fentanyl. When I worked in the hospital, the people that got fentanyl patches were usually your terminally ill cancer patients that had pain that just couldn't be touched with anything else. And then we have our Subutex and, methadone, even codeine. A lot of people don't consider that as serious, but that mixed with something could certainly further depress the central nervous system. But here are the ones up here that are giving us the biggest problem in our nation is, and the US, we are consumers of 90% of this stuff. So I always say, think about the why that is. I think with prevention, that's what we need to do a better job of. Why? And that's multifaceted. It's not one answer. But heroin, which we've known about for decades, but now we've got synthetic fentanyl. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I like graphics. It's 2 milligrams of regular fentanyl to cause an overdose. I got it scaled here by a penny. You'll initially, you'll notice dizziness, nausea, slurred speech, different things like that. But fentanyl is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. And then someone was like, we need something stronger. Let's make carfentanil. Well, carfentanil is 10,000 times that of morphine and 100 times that of fentanyl. That is what came through our state a few weeks ago. And now we have liquid fentanyl being seized on the street, which really scares me because that's so easy to put into drinks and things. Some other things just to think about. I'm just going to throw this out there because I feel like everybody should have this information. We now have dope trank, which is mixed with animal tranquilizers and xylazines, and Narcan does not work on that. And that's very concerning. So while our law enforcement is doing a good job of seizing a lot of this stuff, the dealers over here, well, they're getting less and they want to keep making the same money. So what they're doing is cutting it with xylazine and other tranquilizers. And people that are getting it are thinking they're getting one thing and they're actually getting other things. And that dope trank rots your skin away and causes cellulitis. And there's if you guys like documentaries, I love watching the Nat Geo channel with Maria Zellner. It's called Trafficked. She has one specifically on dope trank and how it's made, but also on fentanyl. Highly, highly recommend. It is really good and shows you how this stuff is made, how it's seized, and then how the dealers figure out how to still make that money because that's all they care about is making money. Just another graphic to show you just how potent fentanyl and carfentanil are. So these, and this is, you can get on the DEA's website and look at this. This is the amount of heroin, fentanyl, and carfentanil that it could take to cause an overdose, and it's not much. And I promise you, they're not measuring it when they make these pills or however they're making it, mixing. This is what we see a lot of. 7 out of 10 pills are laced, according to the DEA. I was going to show you guys. To demonstrate this with kids, I thought I had them up here. I take a pack of, I say kids, college students too, a deck of playing cards. I put an X for every 7 out of 10 cards. I hand those out. And at the end of a presentation, I'll say, stand up if you have an X on your card. That's what it looks like on the streets, guys. We have counterfeit Adderall, which is one of the most common ones, real and counterfeit Xanax, Oxys. They can make them just about anything, but these are the ones that are getting our youth. Some are better made than others. Some I could not tell a difference. And so we also see laced marijuana as well. So how do people become addicted? This is where we're getting messed up, right? People, well, they chose it. Why should we be saving them? You know what? It's a life. That's why. So they start dependence on prescription medication for existing pain. On average, who knows on average how long it takes to get addicted to an opioid and create dependence? 7 days is the average. It can be shorter depending on one's biology and genetic makeup in their brain, but generally it's 7 days. There's a really good documentary. It's free on YouTube. It's called, I think it's called 7 Days, the Opioid Epidemic in Arkansas. I do caution you if you watch it, because as soon as it starts, it goes into these 2 women casually or recreationally using, and she goes into an overdose, and that breathing and seeing that is tough. Some youth were triggered by it. So continuing medication after symptoms are gone, trauma, stress, peer pressure, exposure, misinformation are some of the biggest. Arkansas, we are a high a state. We have a lot of trauma, a lot of substance use and misuse is a circle for that, right? Trauma, human trafficking, it's all usually tied up together. Deliberately misusing is the other one. But, a lot of people started off using what was prescribed to them by their doctor. And then we had laws come in that say you can't be prescribing this as much. So they just kind of stopped prescribing. And then what do you think people did? The withdrawals of this stuff is awful if they didn't do a taper. And so then a lot of people were desperate, and they turned to the streets, and that's how we really got into this mess. So what is Narcan? This is stuff that's important to know. It is only used to reverse the effects of the opioids. All it's going to do, you can walk up on someone who is overdosing on alcohol, which is still very dangerous. You give them that Narcan, you are not hurting anything. All it's going to do is act on that opioid receptor, kick the opioid off, and block it from reattaching. Remember, Narcan only stays in the body for 30 to 90 minutes. So they may need another dose. That's why it's always advisable to make sure you have 911 on the way. It's effective with no risk of abuse. Most people don't like a Narcan reversal. It makes them kind of jittery and anxious when they come out of it. It has no effect on non-opioid overdoses. Like I said, if you give it, it's fine. Hospitals have been doing this for decades. That get Narcan on board just in case. It's been happening, so it's okay. It does not get you high. It is intended for rescue use, not long-term treatment. So, I've heard from a shelter, we don't want that because then the person might have it next to them while they're using. And I'm just like, that doesn't happen. And if they go into an overdose, they can't Narcan themselves. If you're thinking, if your breathing is depressed, your mind is depressed. So that a lot of people think that Narcan enables it. The only thing it enables is breathing because it almost has to always be given by somebody else. I rarely hear about people Narcaning themselves. So how we got started, we started with 27 deluxe boxes and we put them in all of our UCA housing, and then we put them in one in the student center and the athletic building because we wanted to hit places where students may need this when trusted adults aren't around. And a little story of how this happened was I was working with an honors student. I'm addiction studies. This honors student is a film major. And I'm like, well, okay, well, let me just do this meeting. This might be interesting. Well, she wanted to do a documentary on how trauma intersects with substance abuse. I was like, this is a great idea. It's fabulous. I got her hooked up with people to interview. I invited people from the state and people in this sector. They showed up and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. They offered the student work. She got a full ride to Chicago Art Institute. Very proud of her. However, that day they were like, Dr. Rose, this is wonderful. These are great things you're doing. And it was someone from the Division of Aging, Adult and Behavioral Health Services. And she was kind of asking what other plans we had. And I said, I want to get Narcan on campus. I'm looking at this data. And we did have around that time 8 to 9 overdoses. We were averaging a year. She looked at me and said, we've been looking for someone who wants to do this. And I said, well, you found her. And so we started off with just the 27. And we put them all by the AEDs or fire extinguishers so that they could be found. Students were using them. We had a save in one of the halls. A roommate saved their roommate. I also go over and train a college, like literally 2 miles from us. It's a private liberal arts college. They let me come and train. That same week that I went and trained, one of the Greek organizations who's pretty infamous for throwing those type of parties, I'll just say that, they were going to that party and they passed by the house and they saw this young man face down in the grass. People just walking by him thinking he's drunk out of it. When she came up on him, they thought about what they learned in the training. They noticed he wasn't breathing. They gave him Narcan. And he had drank some stuff that the older fraternity members told him to drink, and it had opioids in it. And so they got him Narcan, they called ambulance. They even went and checked on him the next day at the hospital. And we presented that student with an award. So empowering our students to do this work is really, really powerful. So in Arkansas, we have something, once our program at UCA was working and decreasing overdoses, and I would just like to say within the last 3 years, we haven't even had to use Narcan, because this prevention education, every student that comes in gets Narcan trained and prevention education. And we've started on campus collegiate recovery program. We're doing a lot to just educate, because that prevention piece is huge. We have candlelight vigils for people who have been lost to opioid overdoses. But Act 811, we found our legislative champion. Her name's Tara Shepard. I call her Rep Shep. She was able to pass a law. She's a great person to work with, because she is a Democrat, but she is so great at working across the aisle, bipartisan, for important things like this. So the act required that all schools and colleges in Arkansas have Narcan on campus. They have to have people trained how to use it. It has to be clearly visible and labeled. Kids should be placed in locations similar, just like we did the AED, so the public can readily access them. And the law is also intended to encourage schools to develop protocols regarding storage and use of the kits. One thing we are finding is a lot of our high schools, it's supposed to be posted, available where anyone can get it. And when we're kind of asking the schools about it, they're like, well, it's in the nurse's office, locked up. And we're like, okay, well, where's the nurse? She's out today. So who has access to that Narcan should an overdose happen? I think the principal has a key. I'm like, that's not what we're supposed to, that's not Act 811, guys. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. So visibility and accessibility is huge. And with Act 811, we supported Rep Shep. If she had questions, we were on notice to provide that information. And she was able to get this passed bipartisan. And we are actually working together to try to get it passed at a federal level. So that may impact you guys. So the intent of Act 811, it acknowledges that overdose incidences can happen on campus. Minutes and seconds matter when you're not breathing. When I have been in places where they're like, well, we're not allowed to give naloxone to travelers, like in airports. A lot of times I hear that. We're only allowed, to give each other Narcan. Well, we're going to Narcan them. Kirk Lane, he just went and did it. He said, you guys give me the consequence that you want. He was in Las Vegas airport when someone took their prescribed medication and had an overdose because he also drank a few cocktails with his medication at the airport. So, you want to make them try if you can to make all the emergency equipment together. Sometimes you may have to use an AED after a Narcan. It depends on, if their heart is still beating. Most of the time you're just giving rescue breaths. The law pushes beyond carrying naloxone in a nurse's office to ensuring public campus-wide access. And we're seeking to normalize overdose responses and reduce stigma. And I also think that a lot of folks are still thinking that, Pulp Fiction, needle to the heart. Nope, it's just spraying up the nose. We purposefully selected nasal Narcan because we don't want to contribute to STIs. We want to empower students to feel more comfortable. I worked in a hospital for a long time and was in nursing school, and I would still rather squirt something up someone's nose than shoot them with a needle. So we tried to do the safest route. So How we got started, advocacy, never stop talking despite the opposition. I know people disagreed with me, but I know my field and I'm just going to keep sharing the facts. Definitely know your facts. If you can go to people who are the decision makers and have a 2-minute elevator pitch, that is perfect. So I had to educate a lot of people about what naloxone is and what it's not. Also telling people, a lot of the people who are overdosing don't realize they're taking fentanyl. This is hidden in things, including vapes. We have kids, there's a 15-year-old last year who ordered a vape from California, and he'd been ordering them, thought they were THC vapes. Well, he got one with fentanyl and he went to sleep and he never woke up again. This is the kind of stuff we're dealing with. It's everywhere. Know what funding is available, and I'll tell you guys, in case you don't know, I looked up all of Illinois' resources and laws and funding availability around this. I was turned several times until the right person heard me. And I told you about that service learning project that led to Narcan. So we started with 27 and it worked. And then now we have it in every single building. This is our legislative champion. I just want to make sure that we give her credit. She is running for state senator. And we are really working hard with Senator Buddy Carter out of Georgia. He's a Republican, but very passionate about this, and they're trying to work together. So write your legislators about this. Let's work on getting a federal law passed where everybody can be safe and we can provide good care and safety measures to all. All right, so let's get into Illinois. And I love Illinois. I drive through there a lot. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I always make my Chicago stop, but I might have to take a detour and visit Dr. Sego one of these times. So you guys have a statewide standing order. They call it the Opioid Overdose Reversal Agent Standing Order. And it does allow eligible entities to provide naloxone without individual physician prescription. Non-medical persons are legally allowed to administer naloxone in the event of an opioid overdose, and I'll show you those laws that protect you. Insurance coverage. So like Arkansas, Illinois also has a law that if a doctor prescribes an opioid, they also need to prescribe Narcan. But what's happening is when they run it through insurance, it's suddenly like double the price. And so people are like, I'm not getting that. I'll take my opioids. I can't afford that, especially think about people on Medicare, Medicaid. And even if they did buy it over the counter, it's still about $80 for 2 doses. So that to me is a hurdle that needs to be addressed. That's a gap in services that needs to be addressed. We'll talk more about that. So in January 2024, public and private schools in Illinois did become required to keep a supply of an opioid antagonist, such as naloxone, on hand. And the standing order was updated to explicitly include schools. I noticed that the laws pertain more to K through 12 schools and less focus on college campuses. They call them OEND programs, non-pharmacy entities. Law enforcement, health departments, treatment programs can enroll with the state to dispense under the standing order. Colleges can apply to be an OEND program. There's no guarantee that you'll get approved from what I read. The standing order allows any requesting person, friend, family member, community member to obtain naloxone if the intent is to respond to an opioid overdose. So if you know someone, you have someone who you care about on opioids, you can go to the health department or to certain entities and request, hey, I'm concerned about my loved one. We can't afford the naloxone that's in the pharmacy or being dispensed. Can we get some help? And the standing order is supposed to allow that. Training and registration is still required. Simply wanting it doesn't guarantee supply unless the entity is enrolled and complies. So we have this too, but we have our health department and we also have our opioid settlement money. Um, and it's just like a grant. You are applying for a grant for this, and then you keep track of how much you give out, how much you train, and demographics. It is a lot of work. I usually have student interns assist me. Um, if you're working in a specific context, college campus, health center, student org, you might need to check local policy, internal protocols. I just want to make sure that you are working and letting your institution know that you are working to be an opioid education naloxone distribution. To see if you do need that standing order. But to get it from the health department, from the state, you have to become part of the opioid education naloxone distribution. So the laws, I just want you guys to all know this so that, like I said, when you go to talk about this, you're going to want to know your laws. So you do have protective laws. Someone who calls 911 or takes someone to the ER for an overdose will not be charged or prosecuted for certain felony possession offenses. That is something I was so happy when that got passed in Arkansas. Ours is the Joshua Ashley Polly Act, named after a UCA student who overdosed while partying with friends. And rather than calling for help, they took him to our local hospital and laid him on the bench in front of the ER and left him, and he died. And so once again, everyone was scared of getting in trouble, and rather than calling for help, that's what they did. So protections cover certain amounts. You can see fewer than 3 grams of heroin, 3 grams of morphine, or fewer than 40 grams of prescription opioids. The law protects the person who is overdosing when someone else seeks help. And there's a separate law, and it makes it legal for non-medical persons to administer a reversal agent like naloxone in an emergency. So know these laws, and Dr. Siegel has this, so you guys don't have to go in and put it all together, and you just got it all laid out there for you. That way, if somebody's like, oh, what about liability, which I heard over and over again, you could say, well, have you heard of law X, Y, and Z? It protects us from liability. I always think it's important to know the limitations. And when I train my students, I tell them this because I want this law to work like it's intended. I tell people what the law does not cover. So it does not protect against all crimes. If there's independent evidence of dealing and distribution, or evidence wasn't obtained because someone called for help, immunity may not apply. In our state, if there are additional drugs like cocaine, whatever, it's spread out, or if somebody has active warrants, our protection law doesn't cover them. So what I tell students is, if you need to call for help and get those folks and that stuff out of there, do it. I suggest it be gone, but I want you guys to save a life. I'm not necessarily trying to tell them how, to break laws or anything, but I do know that if a protective law burns someone, especially our youth, that will spread like wildfire, and they will not believe in this law or trust it. So the law focuses more on possession charges rather than guaranteeing immunity for all possible legal consequences. So, like I said, if they're on probation or have other offenses, chances are they're still going to have to be held for those. It encourages people to call for help, and we need to be transparent when we're teaching about this stuff. So what if you don't want to do all this grant stuff and work with the health department and maybe get approved to be an OEND? Look at me, I remember the acronym. And I also put this link in here if you want to apply for a naloxone grant, to be a naloxone grant recipient. Some people, when I say you can write a grant, they're like, ugh. So is there an easy way? Yes. And it involves empowering students too. So for the last several years, Dr. Rose has been doing all the Narcan trainings. And woo, that's a lot. And it's building. And I'm so happy about that. But I can't do all this on my own. And nor should I. I think we should be empowering others to do this. So I want to talk about End Overdose. Has anyone in here heard of the organization End Overdose? Okay, it's so cool. So it's a US-based nonprofit, and their whole mission is to decrease overdoses. You can see that they want to end drug-related overdose deaths through education, medical intervention, and public awareness. Their vision is simple: no one has to die. Core activities: they offer no-cost overdose prevention training. They distribute naloxone. They also provide fentanyl test strips and other harm reduction tools. Those test strips are awesome, but you have to know how to use them. End Overdose has a series of training videos, and they're no longer than about 20 minutes each, which we know our students do better whenever they're given this information in chunks versus one big long training. And I'm also going to say it's cool. They make it look cool, which the students really like. Here's our part of our End Overdose chapter. One of the members couldn't make it, and the other one had a baby arrive early. So, but you can see this was at one of our prevention festivals. They provide you. So these are two of the students who took the training, and it's all online. They provided us with 500 double doses of Narcan at no cost. The dummy you see there, mock Narcan, tablecloth, stickers, prizes. They even are certified to provide certification to those they train. And so they give certification cards, which is super empowering for students, especially students if they're majoring in a medical field. And I'm always like, make sure you put that on your resume. That looks really good. So you get all, they even sent us banners that we can hang up in the hallway. Everything is free. So I looked it up, and there are no End Overdose chapters in Illinois. I saw where DePaul at one time had one, but I couldn't find where that was. And I wanted to just quick show you. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I hope this doesn't get weird. I hope it goes well. Okay, perfect. All right, can you guys see the map? Okay, so yeah, I looked, and maybe in the corner of Illinois, close to Chicago, which doesn't surprise me. That makes sense. But I'd like to see more red dots all over your state because you have so many colleges and universities. You can see they're all over. And while I'm here, just let me kind of show you. So look at how it's geared toward youth. So they have this Overdose 2.0, 20 minutes, playing the training, Narcan. They made it into a game. So it's fun. Leading change on campus, the students get a 60-minute leadership training. And what we did was we have a health science club. And a lot of that, and Dr. Seeger knows about Health Science Club. She and I manage that together. So when they have downtime, and I asked them if they'd be interested in this, they were like, yes. So now they're honestly getting into the Greek houses and stuff because they're fellow students. I am considered an authority figure, although I could still get into some because I'm not scary when I go in there, but they like it when their peers come to train them, and I like empowering them because they're going to graduate and take this out with them. And there's more trainings down here. So OUD signs, prevention and key facts, and reducing stigma. And if there's also all kinds of other courses on here that they can do that they will upload. And if the more training students complete, they get rewards, and then they'll ship them to you. This is also where you can go here, get naloxone. You create an account. So what I did, because we only have students here, because we're a backpack campus, fall and spring, I went ahead and applied, because the next application cycle will open in April. I went ahead and applied, and I made faculty all the officers. just to get us started. And then when our GAs and our health science club folks come in and they want to take it over, then they get to pick. We have one who is just a champion. He loves teaching. And I'm just like, go for it, Prez. And so they've done a great job. Now they're going to classes and all kinds of different things. You can also do event requests. If you're throwing a prevention festival, such as we were on campus, you can ask someone, you can put in this event request, and they'll almost always show up. Theo, I cannot pronounce his last name. It's a very, very Polish name, and he always says that. Um, but that man is flying all over the country, helping to set these trainings up and lead this. They also have mentorship calls. So your students and you can do mentorship calls and they check in. Hey, how's it going? Do you guys need other things? They help with press and so forth. So just wanted to kind of go over that. It's a super easy website and it's super easy to register as well. They have the Narcat game. That's where I was saying like students can play that and they're learning. It's fun and they get points for whenever they are completing those trainings. So it's nice to make it fun. Learning can be fun. As cheesy as that sounds, it's true. Okay, so I showed you that too. One of y'all besides the Chicago area can be the first to do this. All chapters do have to go through an application process. And what they'll do is they will Zoom and have a meeting with you, ask you kind of what your vision is. Because when I did this, they were like, we've never had a faculty chapter. And I said, well, we're just going to be overseeing. We're kind of the mentors, but the students will be doing the work. And focused on overdose prevention and response. And I like how they're focused. I do think it's important that we learn all things big picture, but when you have students, and especially at like festivals and stuff, you want it to be quick and get to the point, right? So their trainings are very narrow focus and get straight to the point for students. So it's an RSO on our campus. We've made it, we identified students who wanted to be champions for this work, president, vice president, marketing, and more positions for the chapter. So we have a marketing student serving in that role. And she's loved getting that experience with End Overdose because that's a national organization. They receive intensive online training, both live and then the video. So they do watch the videos and then they have live sessions with a trainer who goes over any kind of questions, anything that maybe they missed, and they want to make sure they know how to do it. So they'll even demonstrate it for their mentor and trainer to make sure they're doing everything right. They ordered, like I said, 500 double doses of Narcan, and it was here within 3 days. They will send, like I said, a mock naloxone. A lot of people, I love that because a lot of people think you got to take the lid off the nasal Narcan and you don't. So you actually get to practice it and you get to practice those rescue breaths. And that CPR dummy, all that stuff is costly. So it's pretty cool to get it for free. Okay, so here I already pulled up the courses. It takes about 20 minutes and you get rewards. There is the link if you have an event and you would like for End Overdose to come. They make things fun and they will, if you have students who want to help, they'll let the students help too, which I think is pretty cool. So here's some pictures. They know how, so they can take this with them and are certified via End Overdose. So if there's a concert, a music festival, End Overdose can help you get in there. And I see Dr. Wester's head nodding. And I love this. So people come through, they can do this quick training and here, take this Narcan with you while you go into this music festival. Peer groups tend to be more open to their peers helping. That's a component of our collegiate recovery program, is that we are training peers to be able to help their peers. And they make it look cool. So you look at, this is just one picture. I wanted to just share a video that they did. Pull this up on their, I believe it was on their Facebook page, which is not pulling up photo me. That's okay. I have an email that I sent to Dr. Sego just in case. Share. Dr. Sego, is the video available for you? Because it's not wanting to show on my end.
I am searching for it. So
Let's see if I can start playing it and pull it up.
we've had so many conversations the last couple of days.
Here, maybe this is it. I got it, guys. Here it is. Okay. So let's reverse that first.
I can't hear it, Stephanie. I don't know if other people can.
So let's reverse. Oh, okay. So those are just, they get, I will be honest, I don't know who those musicians were, but youth do, college students do, and they will partner with people who, like big music folks, who will come in and do those very brief videos, and the students really like them and think they're cool because they look like them, right? And so let me pull back up the presentation. But that's just one example. Their Facebook page, they're very active on social media, which is another really good thing for our youth. They're very involved on Facebook, Instagram, and they have all these videos, as well as pictures. So applications, if you want to become an end overdose chapter, they open in April for new chapters. Really encourage you guys to be the first campus, one of you to be the first campus in Illinois. That could be a really cool competition, Dr. Sego. Just saying, I don't know. But here's just some more pictures of students. They get little packets that they'll send with concert goers, festival goers, college students, and it even includes some PPE in there. So they're getting a little bit of everything, and test strips. They usually give a test strip, and that makes me happy, especially with liquid fentanyl coming down the pike. So they are, like I said, if you're having a music festival or involved, ask that music festival, hey, have you thought about inviting End Overdose? They'll come out for no charge. Just give them a free tent. So I ended with these pictures because this really encapsulates what I do instead of just like a regular headshot. Always, you can see my little Narcan wagon. I roll my Narcan all over campus. This is my little girl here. If she's not in school and I have a Narcan training, she comes. We never stop talking. I also have one who is a freshman in college, and she's even told me, like, I'm so glad you talked to me about a lot of this stuff because I wouldn't know what it was. She's my bonus daughter and came from a little town, and is just now kind of being exposed to some of this stuff. And I'm so thankful that she has that knowledge. So I want to open the floor for some discussion and questions. Oh, I saw somebody had to leave early.
I'll jump on first. I just sent that link to my dean. to be like, so I'm a counselor at a community college. My dean is the dean of students. She oversees all of student life. This falls parallel to everything that I do, but I can't do it without.
Yes, I totally get that. We have to get
So
a
I
too.
just sent it to my dean and I said, I think that some of the clubs and orgs could be interested in this. I'm also going to send it to our nurse on campus does have Narcan, and we have a vending machine outside of the nurse's office for that. But I think I'll get her on my side to be able to put pressure on the powers that be. So I really appreciate that link, and I think how the game aspect of it, I
I
think will be
know.
very a lot of my students that I know who are active in student life will definitely be on board for that.
And the trainers are all younger. Just most of them just graduated. The one for Arkansas was one of my former students, so I'm super proud of her. And that's her job. She travels all over trying. We only have two end overdose chapters in Arkansas, and that's UA, Fayetteville, and then us. But I'm trying to get the word out and spread this more because, you know, we can only do so much, but if we empower our students, they can do way more. And train their other students, or even just talk about it, when they're amongst their peers. So um, I've done it the Grant way. That's a lot, but I wanted to show you guys an easier way too that also involves students. And yes, you're any kind of pre-med students or health science, health promotion, those have been great champions for this work. Any other questions or discussion?
I want to piggyback on some things. And I think I hope by now you see why I had so much fun working with Stephanie, and how many great ideas and how you can partner. And I kind of want to talk about that. Um, we did start the Health Science Club, and it's the first time in the history of the department that it lasted more than 1 year. And I think we're on about 10 years now. And it keeps growing in the things that it does. But I want to briefly mention, as a faculty person who worked with students, the wagon brigade and us using wagons, which has grown to other things, happened because we had a stress table planned before finals, and it rained, monsooned. And so we just got permission to enter all the buildings with the wagons. And it became the most successful event that we had ever done, because we went to the people and instead of setting up a table that nobody came up to outside the student center. And so we changed our programming for the Health Science Club, to do more wagon brigades. And it is a very innovative, people like things brought to them. I mean, you have to get permission, but that was not intended. It was an unexpected opportunity that really, really paid off. So I want to encourage that. I want to encourage the fact that if you listen to Stephanie, she talked about a marketing major, she talked about a film major, she talked about health majors. Stephanie and I were in the College of Behavioral and Health Sciences. And so it was nursing, it was psychology, it was criminology, sociology. So I want you to think about the other types of students, because Stephanie knows this. We've talked a lot since I've come back to Illinois. We work with all community colleges and universities that are mental health professionals in any form. And so that's the challenge of my job, is to find training for and get ways to connect faculty, the counselors, the administration, the clinical, the health centers, the nursing centers, all those things. We represent all of them. And I feel like addiction and suicide prevention, and also like sexual violence awareness, all the topics that are associated with anxiety, stress, and suicide prevention, um,
Yep.
all fit into this. And so, one of the things that we're struggling with at the ICC TAC is, how do we develop and get faculty involved? And I think that you can see like Stephanie's faculty. I used to be faculty at both Eastern and University of Central Arkansas. If you can find a couple of key faculty that spearhead this collaborative and this working together. There's the wellness staff that do a lot of it, and they might be able to identify faculty you didn't think about and that could be active for you. Because I also, like the Stephanie mentioned, and I've worked with many of you, you cannot be all things to all people. And
Right.
so many of the people I work with, the community colleges are very active, and they're they're doing 6 roles or 7 jobs, whatever the law says. They're the benefit navigator, the housing person, the counselor. They're doing clinical, they're on call. And so I really listen carefully to how we can build bridges to get you more support for the other, the public health, the faculty, the RSOs. Typically, if someone volunteers to be an RSO director or the faculty mentor, that's some really easy ways to find a faculty member who's willing to go beyond their union role as a teacher. So I just wanted to mention that. And then the RSO, for us, like the first year we were a club, and then we petitioned to the RSO and got money. And I've mentioned this, I think, when we were in a training in Chicago. And I don't know if this is still true because I left 2 years ago. But because of the things, and you've heard all the things Stephanie does with the RSO now, so they're still, the Health Science Club is still there. We were able to get a foundation account. And so when they do the annual fundraising, the Health Science Club used to be the only club that had their own code with the foundation. Because like we wrote a mini sponsorship for SAMHSA, and they gave us, I think and I forget what it was, gone up since I've left.
$750 stipend. I still get it every year because we report what
Send
we
you
are
an
doing. And
email.
they're like, you guys need the stipend.
Yes,
So,
I mean, you just
uh,
ask for it and they give it to you, and
yeah.
it's every other year. And it was a sponsorship, so it wouldn't fit in our RSO system. And so I worked with the foundation. And so, like, when they do their annual fundraising day, people can give to the Health Science Club. So I just wanted to point those out as additional ways you can fund this kind of activity. If you do have a student, either a mental health or like, I know we have a lot of peer support programs that are student led. And I don't know if you need money for that, but they're already doing the peer support. And so, just additional ways that you can get free stuff to support the work that you're doing. So I just wanted to point those things out.
And if you guys notice, like, and I went with theirs is like the kind of rock metal style, like the youth, geared toward the youth with their black and white and red color. So I kind of try to stay true to that in this presentation. But um, I mean, you literally, the getting this started is so easy. It would just be getting your champions to do who want to do this work. And um, the students have been great. And so we are just able to reach out to more people. The other thing I like about it is usually if you have a grant, you are only allowed to give that Narcan and do those trainings in your area or your county. End overdose does not care. They want you giving it out and training it as much as possible. So that's another nice thing because then our uh, health science club students, if there's a community event that they would like to go to, we're ready. We can go. And that Narcan is so easy to get. And so, yeah, they came out to our Mobilized Recovery Festival, which was a wonderful event. And if you guys can ever, you know, um, apply for that, I highly recommend applying for that. It's a lot of work, but it's fun and they pay for everything. And they'll bring out American Idol winners, all kinds of performers, and then speakers and education in between. And it's all developmentally appropriate toward college students. So, and they are a mobilized recovery partnership. So the other thing about End Overdose is the partnerships that come with this. It really grows, and you can even ask them, hey, you have other ideas of how we could maybe get a prevention festival going on campus, and might say, let me reach out to our partners and see if we can make that happen. We actually had a local band, an Arkansas-based band, come out and play for our students while we did some end overdose training and some other like mocktails, which used to be a no-no, but now we're teaching about how much healthier they are and tastier they are versus alcohol. And we have seen a huge decrease in our youth. Millennials down are drinking less and less alcohol, which is really nice, but consuming more and more marijuana. Another thing, and this is just throwing it in there. I don't know if you guys have good marijuana trainings, a lot of hours. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the movie Reefer Madness. But that's the way I feel like a lot of our prevention trainings are. There are people up there. I'll just be honest, I took a group of students and they had these older ladies talking about marijuana products and things you could do with them. And my students around, they're like, Dr. Rose, that's not true. And I was like, I know it's not true because I have been around this stuff. And the things they were saying were just scare tactics. Well, Arkansas is a medicinal state. We have to take a different approach. And so there is another level to this with end overdose. They also partner with smart approaches to marijuana. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but they take that, hey, are there some medicinal purposes of marijuana? Yes. But taking an 800 milligram gummy or, 100% THC vape is not medicinal. That is obviously going to have a more negative impact on your brain. And so they talk about that, and they also educate about how we don't want medicinal marijuana to become the next big tobacco, right? And so this talking to the students like that, they get it. They like that because vaping and marijuana are just so popular amongst this age group. So, any other questions? Great discussion, guys. Have you had any on-campus naloxone training, and what are your current policies? Does anyone know their current policies? And who manages that? Is it the dean of students? Is it your wellness? All those things are really important when you reach out to make sure you're partnering with those folks. And like I said, make sure that you don't need an OE&D waiver that Illinois requires to participate with the health department and state-funded Narcan. And your university should know that. But this is not state related or funded to the states, so it costs the state nothing. That's something to highlight in your pitch, is this will cost us nothing. In fact, we'll be getting a lot. Any other thoughts, questions, anything, guys? Anything that you might think would come up if you were talking to administrators about getting this on your campus? Anything that you foresee?
Stephanie, I have a question that I just thought of when I was thinking about the people who pre-registered for this. A lot of, we're MEAC funded, the Mental Health Early Action Act, and it specifically says public community colleges and universities. The resources that you shared with us today, and we'll put those together and I'll put them in iEcho to make them user friendly. So I'll follow up with you on that. They don't distinguish between private and public, correct?
And overdose? No, they do not. That was another reason when I was going over the laws, I was like, oh, I really want to show a way they can get it through their state if need be, or if you want, but also I want to show another way because some of those state, any bureaucracy, anything can be difficult, right? And so I want to just kind of go over those laws and that it is available, but the challenges that come with that and how we can work around those challenges while still empowering students.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? Dr. Rose does have her email there for you. And again, Stephanie and I do still do research together. So I feel like I
Absolutely.
talk to you at least once a week. And again, she's my national expert on addiction, especially hot topics, because I don't work with students directly anymore. And so when I have a question, I start with Stephanie. I feel like knowing her, she would do the same thing for you.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Please don't be a stranger, you guys. It's what we do. I also have a brother who is a sergeant for the Southwest Little Rock area, which is very, they're struggling. It's an area that struggles a lot. And so I get a lot of information from him. As soon as that liquid fentanyl, I'd written a grant for them and our police department to get a true narc, so that our officers are not having to pick things up and get exposed. Because if the wind blows and they inhale that in their nose or something, we have had officers overdose. And so they have this laser, it's called a TrueNarc, and they can point at the substance and it tells them what it is. And so they found $12,000 worth of liquid fentanyl in one stop with that TrueNarc. Um, Something else coming down the pike is green fentanyl. They're trying to make it look like marijuana or K2, um, and it has lidocaine in it. It's mixed with lidocaine. So those are the things that worry me that we need to educate students about, because that's Narcan won't work on that. And so some of these things are starting to get mixed. And so we have to do a good job with prevention. And I think definitely training our students to share that knowledge and information is powerful.
Any final thoughts or questions from anyone? I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all attending today. And as always, I always appreciate the knowledge that Dr. Stephanie Rose shares with us. So, having said that, oh, we have a hand, Ebony.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I did have my hand up, but I think you answered the question. But now I'm just clapping. But I will share that we do have a student health services offers Narcan training on our campus at Northeastern. We have a wellness kiosk, but it's kind of tucked in the corner.
Yeah.
It's in a private space because you can get um, like Plan B and condoms and we do have them in our offices and on campus, but we don't have those in the lot box. Like I really like those. We have a residential hall. We have the nest with students in there. We have experienced the student overdose. So I think having those boxes around campus would be much better than them kind of tucked away in our drawers and in a private space in the corner for students to get them. So
So
I
that
am going to be investigating everything you shared.
an idea, so those wine boxes we got as part of a grant for host being willing to host a mobilized recovery festival where End Overdose came out, and they donated, I want to say like 60 or 70 of those boxes, and they are
Wow.
really cool. Um, and I like that they're insulated. So what we're doing are those clear plastic ones that I showed you guys mounted on the wall. They're not holding up to the weather outside as well, and the clips are breaking off. The wine boxes are insulated and made out of a material that holds up to outdoor elements. So, like in our apartment complexes, the best place was to put them at the mailboxes because you can't enter them without, a card. And we wanted it just to be accessible. So we're only replacing those outdoor boxes because it's wasteful. It's waste of time, of folks' time, as well as just the materials. So we're leaving all the ones inside because they are fine, and just replacing the outdoor ones. And we donated the ones that we had extra to the community. I worked with the police chief and fire chief to identify and get permission. I already knew where I wanted to put them, but I had to get permission. So comes with 2 doses of naloxone, PPE, and I don't know how they made this screen pop out in this tiny box, and it just walks them through an overdose rescue.
Okay.
So One Box is a terrific resource. And you can ask, and I would, if you apply to end overdose, I would let them help you get in touch with those people because you might be able to get a little mini grant for some.
Okay. Thank you for the information.
You are very welcome. And if I find out any more resources, I will send that to Dr. Sego to share. None of these things need to be a secret, in my opinion. We should all be sharing this. And yes, and that was just one video link of End Overdose. I encourage you to look at their Facebook page. They have musicians on there sometimes holding up naloxone and they go to all kinds of music festivals, concerts. They make it look cool. That's the best I can say. And my students just like it a lot better. And also I like that brief training because we know how our students' minds work, right? They're not completely developed until, 25 or 27. So, those short, brief trainings are really developmentally appropriate and evidence-based.
Okay. Any other questions or comments that you all want to share? As always, Stephanie, you far exceeded my dream, vision, and goals for this training. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
And
I love if I can share free resources. I love sharing, especially when they're good. Let's share them. It helps more folks. So I really mean it. Please don't ever be a stranger. We also have a Facebook page that I try to keep pretty updated with trends and different things, UCA addiction studies. But yeah, happy to answer any more questions that come down the pike, or if you need assistance with anything, or you want me to connect you with folks, please don't be a stranger. I really do mean that. And Dr. Sego, please feel free to share this presentation.
I honestly, this is horrible. I didn't even ask this time. I just was going to do it because I knew you would say that. But
Well,
I should
I don't keep my stuff. This is stuff I want to be shared. So, yeah, absolutely. No worries there.
I will update the resources in iEcho, which is our learning management system. But since we have Dr. Rose's permission, I will also share this on our training on our website. So it'll be accessed, and I'll take a lot of the resources and add those to the resource list on our website as well. So
yeah, and I did kind of cite where you guys can apply for the grants in Illinois if you want to kind of be working on that too. And also the End Overdose chapter application in this presentation, as well as that brief sample video, but there's a lot more videos on there. I just like the way they trained it. They got straight to the point to keep those steps in mind for students who are doing rescues. So.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to end there. Thank you all for your time, and we will see you all in the next training. We do have one in November, but it's on the ratio for counselors to students, and it's kind of specifically more for counselors, but everyone's always welcome to come. We'll be sending those invitations out soon. I'm looking at some AI training for the second half of the school year for spring and summer semester. So if there's training that you want, feel free to email me and I'll find speakers for you for those. So have a great rest of the
Thank you guys for having me. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye all.